Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, when we met here 3 years ago, it was the 22nd of February 2022. This conference ended, and there was still the hope that there would be no invasion by Russia of Ukraine. And President Zelenskyy was here pleading for the international community to stick together. We all know what happened the year after. He was here virtually. Last year he was here in person, and this year I'm very happy that President Zelenskyy is again speaking to us. President Zelenskyy over the last years has been a very courageous leader of his country. The Ukrainian people has rallied behind him. The international community has rallied behind him. And I think it's very important that the international community sticks together. But it's also important that the Ukrainian society sticks together and there is no wedge driven into the Ukrainian society. We can only beat Russia together, both here and in Ukraine. So please welcome with me the President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelenskyy.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your support. Thank you for our invitation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, at the start of conference, every country usually shares its stance, priorities, whether officially, openly, or through informal talks with journalists, with partners. And this year, a country that was not even invited still made its presence known. A country that everyone talks about here, not in a good way. The night before Munich this year, a Russian attack drone struck the sarcophagus covering the ruined fourth reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was a modified Shahid drone, Russian drone, a technology passed on to Russia. Its warhead carried at least 50 kilograms of explosives. And we see this as a deeply symbolic move by Russia, by Putin. Just recently in Ukraine, we discussed the crucial role of nuclear energy in keeping the country running despite Russia's constant attacks on our Ukrainian energy infrastructure. And we are now preparing a project to expand our Khmelnytsky nuclear power plant. Just one day before the Munich, I was there on the plant, and with involvement from American businesses and including Westinghouse. The project will strengthen the energy security of not just Ukraine, but our entire region of Europe. And we also recently spoke with President Trump and his team about nuclear energy and Europe's largest nuclear power plant, our Zaporizhzhia plant, which is currently occupied by Russia. And Russia responded by sending a drone to hit Chernobyl's sarcophagus, which holds radioactive dust and debris. And this is not just madness. This is Russia's stance. A country that launches such attacks does not want peace. They don't want. It is not preparing for dialogue. Almost every day, Russia sends up to 100, even more, Shahed drones at us each day, and regular ballistic missile attacks, and a steady increase in aerial bomb strikes. But that's not all. This year, Moscow plans to create 15 new divisions, adding up to 150,000 soldiers. That's more than the national armies of most European countries. Russia keeps opening new army recruitment centers every week, and Putin can afford it. Oil prices are still high enough for him to ignore the world. And we have clear intel that this summer Russia plans to send troops to Belarus under the pretext of training exercises. But that's exactly how they staged forces before their full-scale invasion to Ukraine 3 years ago. Is this Russian force in Belarus meant to attack Ukraine? Maybe, or maybe not. Or maybe it's meant for you. Let me remind you, Belarus borders 3 NATO countries. It has effectively become a foothold for Russian military operations. According to both Putin and Lukashenko, Belarus now hosts banned weapons, medium-range missiles, and even nuclear arms. Putin clearly sees Belarus as just another Russian province now. And we need to be realistic. If someone is setting up a military launch pad, we need to ask, what should we do about it? And more importantly, what can we do before the next attack, the next invasion? Remember, there have already been provocations on the Polish and Lithuanian borders with Belarus, migrant crisis staged by Russian intelligence to store up chaos in Europe. But what if next time it's not migrants? What if it's Russian troops or North Korean troops? Make no mistake, North Koreans are not weak. They are learning how to fight now, how to fight the modern war. And what about your armies? Are they ready? And if Russia launches a false flag operation or just straight up with no insignia from Belarus, like how Crimea got taken in 2014, how fast will the allies respond? And will they respond at all? Yesterday here in Munich, the US Vice President made it clear. Decades, he said, decades of the old relationship between Europe and America are ending. From now on, things will be different, and Europe needs to adjust to that. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in Europe, and I'm sure you believe too. And I urge you to act for your own sake. And for the sake of Europe, people of Europe, your nations, your houses, your children, and our shared future. For this, Europe has to become self-sufficient, united by common strengths, Ukrainian and European. Right now, Ukraine's army, supported by global aid, thank you so much, is holding back Russia. But if not us, then who will stop them? Really? Let's be honest, now we can't rule out the possibility that America might say no to Europe on issues that threaten it. Many leaders have talked about Europe that needs its own military, an army of Europe. And And I really believe that time has come. The armed forces of Europe must be created. This is not harder than standing firm against Russian attacks, as we have already done. But this is not just about increasing defense spending as a GDP ratio. Money is needed, of course, yes, but money alone will not stop an enemy assault. People and weapons don't come for free. But again, it's not just about budgets, it's about people realizing the need to defend their own home. Without Ukraine's army, Europe's armies will not be enough to stop Russia. It's reality for today. Only our army in Europe has real modern battlefield experience. But our army alone is not enough too. And we need what you can provide: weapons, training, sanctions, financing, political pressure, and unity. 3 years of full-scale war have proven that we already have the foundation for a united European military force. And now, as we fight this war and lay the groundwork for peace and security, we must build the armed forces of Europe so that Europe's future depends only on Europeans, and decisions about Europe are made in Europe. That's why we are talking with European leaders and with the United States about military contingents that can ensure peace, and not just in Ukraine, but across Europe. And that's why we are developing joint weapons production, especially drones. Especially the Danish model, for example, of pooled investments for arms production in our country is already working well, very successful. Last year alone, thanks to Ukrainian and partners' efforts, we produced over 1.5 million drones of various types. Ukraine is now the world leader in drone warfare. This is our success, but it's also your success, of course. And everything we build for our own defense in Ukraine also strengthens your security. And the same should apply to artillery, air defense, technologies, and armored vehicles. Everything needed to protect lives in modern war should be produced in Europe fully. Europe has everything it takes. Europe just needs to come together and start acting in a way that no one can say no to Europe. Boss it round or threat it like a pushover. This isn't just about stockpiling weapons. It's about jobs, technological leadership, and economic strength for Europe. Last fall, in my victory plan, I proposed replacing part of the US military presence in Europe with Ukrainian forces, if Ukraine is in NATO, of course. If the Americans themselves decide to go that way, decreasing their presence, it's not good. Of course, it's very dangerous, but we all in Europe need to be ready. And I started discussing this even before the US elections, because I could see where American policy was heading. But America needs to see where Europe is heading. And this direction of European policy shouldn't just be promising, it should make America want to stand with a strong Europe. This is absolutely possible, I'm sure of it. And we must shape that course. Europe must decide its own future. We need confidence in our own strengths so that others have no choice but to respect Europe's power. And without a European army, that is impossible. Once again, Europe needs its own armed forces. And I know Mark Rutte, my good friend, is listening to me right now. And Mark, my friend, this isn't about replacing the alliance. This is about making Europe's contribution to our partnership equal to America's. And we need the same approach when it comes to diplomacy, working together for peace. Ukraine will never accept deals made behind our backs without our involvement. And the same rule should apply to all of Europe. No decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine, no decisions about Europe without Europe. Europe must have a seat at the table when decisions about Europe are being made. Anything else is zero. If we are left out of negotiations about our own future, then we all lose. Look at what Putin is trying to do now. This is his game. Putin wants one-on-one talks with America. Just like before the war, when they met in Switzerland and looked like to carve up the world. Next, Putin will try to get the US president standing on Red Square on May 9th this year, not as a respected leader, but as a probe in his own performance. We don't need that. We need real success. We need real peace. Some in Europe may not fully understand what's happening in Washington right now, but let's focus on understanding ourselves right here in Europe. We must give strength to Europe first. Does America need Europe as a market? Yes. But as an ally? I don't know. For the answer to be yes, Europe needs a single voice, not a dozen different ones. Even those who regularly come to Mar-a-Lago need to be a part of a strong Europe, because President Trump doesn't like weak friends. He respects strengths. Next, some in Europe may be frustrated with Brussels, but let's be clear. If not Brussels, then Moscow. It's your decision. That's geopolitics. That's history. Moscow will pull Europe apart if we, as Europeans, don't trust each other. A few days ago, President Trump told me about his conversation with Putin. Not once did he mention that America needs Europe at the table. That says a lot. The old days are over when America supported Europe just because it always had. But President Trump once said, what matters is not the family you were born into, but the one you built. We must build the closest possible relationship with America, and yes, a new relationship, but as Europeans, not just as separate nations. That's why we need a unified foreign policy, a coordinated diplomacy, the foreign policy of common Europe, and let the end of this war be our first shared success in this new reality. And we are already working to make sure that on February 24th, the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, we can gather together in Kyiv and online. All European leaders, all key partners who defend our security, from Spain to Finland, from Britain to Poland, from Washington to Tokyo. This meeting must deliver a clear vision for our next steps on peace, security guarantees, and the future of our collective policy. And I do not believe in security guarantees without America. Yes, it will be just weak, but America will not offer guarantees unless Europe's own guarantees are strong. And I also will not take NATO membership for Ukraine off the table. But right now, the most influential member of NATO seems to be Putin, because his whims have the power to block NATO decisions. And that's despite the fact that it was Ukraine's army that stopped Russia, not a NATO country, not NATO troops, but only our people and our army. And there are no foreign armies fighting on Ukraine's side in this war, but Putin has lost almost 250,000 soldiers in this war. Over 610,000 have been wounded. Just in the Battle of Kursk, our troops eliminated nearly 20,000 Russian soldiers. We completely destroyed the North Korean units that Putin had to bring in because his own forces were not enough to hold back our counteroffensive. For over 6 months now, Ukrainians have been holding a foothold inside Russian territory, even though it was Russia that wanted to create a buffer zone inside our land, in Ukraine. And I am proud of Ukraine. I am proud of our people. But now I ask you, each of you, to honestly answer this question. If Russia came for you, could your army fight the same way? I don't want anyone to ever have to find out, God forbid. That's why we are talking about security guarantees. And that's why we believe that the core of any security guarantees for Ukraine must be NATO membership. Or if not that, then conditions that allow us to build another NATO right here in Ukraine. Because at some point there will be a border between war and peace. Where that border is drawn and how strong it is up to us. My proposal: Ukraine's eastern border, Belarus eastern border, the eastern borders of the Baltic states, Finland's eastern border. That is the strongest security line for all of us in Europe, because that is the line of international law. And do we still remember what international law is? Let's be honest, international law, these two words already sounds a bit outdated, but I believe that Europe's mission is to make sure international law still matters. And finally, one last point. What security guarantees can Putin offer? Before the war, many doubted whether Ukraine's institutions could withstand Russian and Putin's pressure. But in the end, it was Putin who faced an armed rebellion from within. He was the one who had to defend his own capital from his own warlords. That alone shows his weakness. So what happens to the million Russian troops currently fighting in Ukraine? Where they gonna fight if not in Ukraine? This is why we cannot just agree to a ceasefire without real security guarantees. without pressure on Russia, without a system to keep Russia in check, to fight us, Putin, pull troops from Syria, from Africa, from Caucasus, even from some part of Moldova. And right now, he faces a shortage of fighting forces. And if this war ends the wrong way, he will have a surplus of battle-tested soldiers who know nothing but killing and looting. And that is yet another reason why this war cannot be decided by just a few leaders, not by Trump and Putin, not by me and Putin, not by anyone here in Munich sitting down with Putin alone. We must apply pressure together to make real peace. Putin cannot offer real security guarantees, not just because he is a liar, but because Russia, in its current state, needs war to hold power together. And the world must be protected from that. So, first, the armed forces of Europe as an upgrade to NATO. Second, a common European foreign policy. Third, a level of European cooperation that Washington has to take seriously. Fourth, international law. And fifth, keeping all pressure on Russia, because that the pressure is what guarantees peace, not Putin's words, not just some papers. Putin lies, he is predictable, and he is weak. We must use that now, not later. And we must act as Europe, not as a bunch of separate people. So some say that the new year comes not on January 1st, but with Munich Security Conference. This new year starts now, and let it be the year of Europe united, strong, security, and in peace. Peace for Ukraine, peace for Europe, peace for all the world, for all your families. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini!
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was a stem winder of a speech with a lot of challenges thrown down. I want to ask you to expand more on the American piece of this. You, after your phone call with President Trump, said that you did not hear enough detail to make this a peace plan. Can you just elaborate what you meant by that?
Can I speak Ukrainian?
No.
Okay. Don't pressure on me. Okay, so yeah, we had really a long conversation with the President of the United States. Not first one and not last, I'm sure. And I mean, really between us, I'm not sure that by phone we can manage all the plan, all security guarantees with all the details, because, you know, devil in details. Yes, and we know where is this devil, in what country now. Yes, that's why we have to stop him, to stop Putin, and it's very important for me. That's why the atmosphere of our discussion is good, but really it's always good. Yes. But we need urgent, very concrete steps. And I think we have to work on it. Our teams, well, we we began, but I think that we have to start immediately to do more deep decisions.
We'll get into that in a moment, but you did also have a separate conversation with Vice President J.D. Vance last night, you and your team and his team as well. Did he provide any more details? And, you know, we have to bring up that in 2022 here, basically J.D. Vance said he didn't, and this is a quote, "I don't care what happens to Ukraine one way or another." Do you feel that he's changed, that the Trump administration and the actors you're dealing with understand what's at stake?
I'll be honest. We have to work on it. All of us, not only me. Me is not enough, really. I think we have to work because I think that, you know, we together in Europe, the war is in Europe, and America is far from the invasion. And I think that we need to share more details because, to my mind, there are a lot of different voices around new American administration, and I'm not sure that all these voices on our side. Mm-hmm. That's why we have to work with these people, even with some Europeans, as I said. Yeah. If I was understandable, I don't know, yes, about Mar-a-Lago, about there, yeah.
It was clear.
It was clear, but I want to repeat it, yes. It's important for them to be clear.
Do you want to name names while we're at it?
I know names, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that it's, yeah.
Let's just get back to President Trump. At a press conference...
You said about Orban. Oh, sorry.
Do you understand?
No.
Viktor Orban is what the president was saying. Mr. President, Trump was asked whether he trusted Putin. And he sort of basically ended up saying, on this, I do. But he has also said that, and frankly, it's quite difficult to extract what all the different administration officials have been saying. On the one hand, potentially that, you know, maybe Ukraine had a responsibility for this war. Maybe Ukraine can't ever expect to get back. It's unrealistic, according to the defense secretary, its territory. Maybe Ukraine will be safe and independent. Maybe it'll be part of Russia. Do you understand what America's position is?
Yes.
Which is?
I think, to my mind, they are preparing atmosphere for their dialogue.
For their dialogue, which will be?
For the dialogue between Trump and Putin. And I think this is, it's up to them, but they can discuss everything they want, but not about Ukraine without us. And that's why, in this case, especially in this case, I think it's a little bit dangerous. That's why I said that we need to talk more with the president and to talk more with his people, with his teams. Yesterday, as you said, yes, we had good conversation, and I think that I opened some new details for Vice President. That's why I said it's not waste time. It's really very important, I think, diplomatic investment for the future, just and lasting peace for Ukraine.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought you were going to say some more things.
Your order.
Yeah. You just sort of, I suddenly got flummoxed.
I'm sorry.
You said Putin doesn't want peace. I mean, you just said it loud and clear here.
It's true.
So what is the dialogue? And have you convinced the Americans that A, Ukraine has to be at the table, and B, I guess the Europeans have to convince them that they have to be
on all the levels, we directly, yes, very directly send these messages that we have to prepare security guarantees like a main part of the stopping Putin and stop this war, and very important, essential, and we say that it can't be without us. And that's why I don't know if we don't have, from my point of view, if we don't have for today common plan, it means for me that United States doesn't have. Because if they have something, it's not about us. I mean, this is about something new, but we don't want this new reality. Yes. So that's why,
I was just asking you whether you have convinced him that you must be at the table.
Of course, I said that I think that is good, that first of all we have to make a plan with you, I said to the president. It was the day when he had phone calls with Putin and with me, and first with him and then with us.
And how did that sit with you?
No, I said that...
But first with Putin and then with you?
Oh, I'm not happy. Yes, but I think that more dangerous if first meeting will be with Putin and then with Ukraine. And there are things I shared with the President Trump, that first of all we have to see common view. And I said also that at the table we need Europe also. It's very important for us. We are Europe, we in Europe, and we see our future only in EU, like a member. So that's why for us it's very important. And Europe helped us a lot. Because when I speak with different officials of the United States, of new administration, and we're thankful for them that they didn't frozen their military support. It's very important, and I'm very thankful, thanks again. But when we speak, I really understand what part of support did America during these 3 years and what huge support made Europe. And it's important.
Did you get a commitment from President Trump that you would meet with him first? Do you have a plan to meet with the president?
No, we have our plan, of course. It's our country, and that's why it's our plan. I think it's understandable, but we need the common view. That's why we are ready for the common plan. Yeah. And I shared it.
I'm just asking whether, because President Trump says he'll meet Putin maybe in Saudi Arabia maybe soon, has he said he will meet you?
He said to me that we have to meet, and I said to him also we have to meet. I think that I said first that we have to meet. Yes, and but we understood each other, because I didn't say about it once.
You said it several times.
Yeah, so that's why I think we understood each other, and it's very important. Yes, because if we can repeat the words that each day we have losses, and if President of the United States or other leaders repeat these words, Ukraine has losses, we have to stop the war. I mean, that it meant that we have urgently to meet if we really want to stop. To meet with the concrete dates and days and plans.
So you talk about losses, obviously heavy losses. You mentioned Russia's heavy losses as well. Yeah. You were talking to President Trump, and you know that last year, around this time last year, it was President Trump and his allies in Congress which delayed for approximately 7 months the aid that was meant to come to Ukraine. When I spoke to General Syrskyi, your commander in Ukraine, just a few months ago, he said the delay in aid did cost lives, cost territory, and cost a lot of, strategic effort in Ukraine. Did you mention that to President Trump?
No.
I see.
We spoke about delaying and about decision of the Congress, and at least positive decision. I was thankful to him. It was in September when we had meeting during his election period. I think so, or before the election period. I don't. Before, a little bit before. Yes. So it was very important, the decision. I was thankful bipartisan support, and also Mike Johnson, he made positive decision. And also to President Trump, because if he wouldn't be supportive, they couldn't vote this decision. But really, help, which we needed very much, still is going. I mean, not everything came. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. So it's very slow, and I think General Syrskyi was right that one of the reasons why we lost, but I don't want to speak about kilometers, but I'm ready. I mean, we lost about 4,000 square kilometers. Yes, but of course, if the help could come you know, very quickly, everybody understand that the losses was, I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
we could be in more good conditions.
And precisely because of where you would need to be to have a negotiation to end the war. That's why I ask you this. So you talked about security guarantees. What details do you think about? What would be a security guarantee apart from joining NATO right now? What would be a security guarantee in any ceasefire or to freeze or monitor any line of contact, which is some 1,300 kilometers long? Because already Defense Secretary Hegseth said there'd be no US troops. We don't know what it looks like. What do you think it looks like?
More strong sanctions, not if they will invade again, just more strong sanctions at the very beginning, then, like you said, a really difficult to hold the border, long border, big, yes, for Ukraine and Ukrainian soldiers. That's why we need big army. I shared it yesterday. Yes, we need army more than now. If we're not in NATO, then, as I said, NATO has to be in Ukraine. It means only one, that we will need the army comparable with soldiers of Russia. It's 1.3 or 1.5 million soldiers, so we need money for this, the package of money, real money, and it's big deficit. Even today for us is 40 billion per year. So this money and then weapon and the package of missiles, what was written in the victory plan, the package which we will not use, but it has to stand on our territory. And if Putin will begin new invasion, we will use it. So I think these issues are very important. This is priority.
And foreign troops, European troops?
Yes, we are open for this initiative. Yeah. We understand, I mean, mostly we understand the details, but we need to discuss these details with leaders. I don't want to be now, you know, very loud about it. So, but we understand that we need it. It will help us.
And one other big question, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, came to your country. Yeah. I believe essentially gave you a notice that this is what the administration wants in terms of how much of your rare earth minerals. Trump himself has said, I want $500 billion worth, and that would be fair, he said. What is your response to that? I know you've been talking about rare earths even under the Biden
administration. We're still talking.
Yes. So where do you stand on that?
We're still talking.
Mm-hmm. So not 500 million.
You know,
that's half
in our history, there have been a lot of different dialogues with different American administrations. Even from my first year of my term, from 2019. So I had a lot of different dialogues, and we are in process.
Finally, I want to ask you, follow up on what Ambassador said in his introduction. The political situation in Ukraine, you've been in power for a long time, there's martial law, you haven't had elections since then, your mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, has criticized you for that and for many other things. Putin himself calls you illegitimate. He says, I'm not going to negotiate with an illegitimate president. What is your view on when the time will be right for actual elections? During ceasefire talks, after a ceasefire, or what?
Interesting what Klitschko said about me. I really didn't.
Your opponents, I'm telling you what your opponents, and some members of civil society.
Okay. No, I'm surprised. I mean that Klitschko is a great sportsman, but I didn't know that he is a great speaker. But I respect him. So I'm focusing on surviving of our country, and I'm doing really all my term, beginning from different dialogues, as I said to you, continuing with COVID as all of us, but half of my term was COVID, another half is the war with Putin, or against him. Yes? So this is what really very important. I'm ready, you know, to speak about elections if you want. Ukrainians don't want totally don't want, because they're afraid, because otherwise we will lose the military law, war law, and our soldiers will come back home, and Putin will occupy all our territory. It will be, because now we're mobilized, now we are one organism, yes, so we are one country. Yeah, that's why it's very important to hold and to save it. And it doesn't matter, I mean, we need unity in country. So it's not about, you know, myself, it's about the future of our country. It's about, for today, really, the question is to survive. The question is to save Ukraine, our independence, our people, our homes. And if somebody doesn't like, they can choose another citizenship, if they want. They have real estate.
Mm-hmm. Did you
somewhere.
say, what, real estate?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I have time for one question from the audience, maybe one or two. Somebody got a question for the president? Apparently not. What is 2025 going to be in Ukraine? Do you believe it'll be the year of peace? And more to the point, do you believe Putin has any intention of allowing an independent, sovereign Ukraine?
We really want peace, and we work on it. We will prepare security guarantees like we see. We will share it with the United States, and I hope they will share their view. As I said, common view for me is very important to hear all our partners in Europe who helped us, in EU plus, of course, because UK, our partners, big partners, and that's why it's very important to prepare during months all these things, to share it with the President of the United States, to find time for this, to our common meetings, to make this common plan, then to put it on the table for Putin and do everything. That's things what really President Trump, he's strong, he can do. Put sanctions or pressure in any ways, in any case, how he wants. And after that, to stop this war this year, 2025, make a peace in Ukraine. This is our plan. That's what we really want, and that's what we will try to do.
Did you tell, as was reported, President Trump, that Putin is only doing this and agreeing to talks because he's afraid of Trump? Did you tell him that?
Yes. I told Trump that Putin afraid of him. Yes, and he heard me. And now Putin knows.
I shouldn't be laughing, but you do make me smile. So,
we
Mr.
want
President,
peace.
thank you very much.
We have to live and we have to smile.
That's
when we
true
have
too.
time,
That
of
is
course.
true.
Thank you.
Дякую. Слава Україні!
Thank you. It's very good. Thank you.